Awesome. Okay. Thank you guys so much for coming. Oh, Victoria wants in. Oh, oh, yay. Hi, Victoria. I was so thinking you might not be able to make it because of your allergies and asthma.
I'm here.
I'm so happy you're here. Oh, that means you're doing a little bit better, right?
Yeah, pardon the
Oh, that's
aggressive steroid attitude and the raspy throat, but I'm good.
I've been worried. She had a really, really bad asthma attack this week, and I mean, like bad, like hospital needing breathing treatments, airway closing, type of asthma attack. It scared me. I've only had one of those in my entire life, and it was so terrifying. So I've been sending you all my healing energy. But the weather, the air quality is so bad, and the humidity is. I was just wondering if you would be able to make it. I'm so glad you're here. Okay. And are you okay with us recording, Victoria? 'Cause I didn't get a chance to ask you.
For sure. I'm just shoving my face full of food right now. I will have my camera on in a second.
Okay, that's fine. Take your time. Take your time. Okay. So we're going to be covering chapters 11 through the end of Wild from Cheryl Strayed. And I'm going to start, we'll start in regular alphabetical order this time. But my question was, how do you feel about the way Cheryl finished the trail and all that she encountered on the last leg of it? Things that I noticed that I wanted to bring up to see if you guys did too. She finally allowed herself to sleep with somebody. And she also hiked along with people at the end where she avoided that all along. I thought those two things were significant enough to discuss, as well as your overall feeling of how she did. So we can go ahead and start with you, Jessica. Like, what are your thoughts on the end leg of the of her track?
I can go, but isn't Jameson first?
Jameson, why do I always do this to you? I do this in the YouTube video. I'm so sorry. Yes, please. Thank you, Jessica. Go ahead, Jameson. Let's hear your thoughts.
Sorry, I was fighting with the mute button there for a second. I think that I think the first time when she slept with the guy, like I think it was something she had to do to realize that she didn't have to do it anymore. Like that's kind of just how I felt it about it. Like it's like one of those things like you revert back to an old coping mechanism and then you're like, "Oh, this doesn't feel good anymore. This is not how I should have handled this." Um and I think like then at the end when she like actively chose not to, it was kind of like um I don't know, like you need people in your life. I don't know. It was like kind of like her admitting that I need friends or I need people that I love around me because she really has so little family. It's kind of what I was thinking. Like she feels some sort of connection to these people that she doesn't want to, like she doesn't want it to end that way. Um, I was glad that she finished. I was real glad that she had new boots on the way when, because I've been wondering the whole book, like, how are you gonna hike with no boots? Like, it's gonna happen. And I probably would have just like sat there and cried till somebody came along and found me. Like, what are you doing? But I guess that's not an option. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I was supposed to answer.
No, you answered perfectly. I think in our technology age, which is different from when she did this trail, there wasn't the ability of having a cell phone, and probably, I don't even know, but it might not be range on the Pacific Northwest Trail. But she
They are
didn't have the
not.
option. No, I was
Yeah.
like, if my feet, like she said that at one point it felt like they were broken. I know me and pain, and I probably would have been like, somebody come get me, you know.
Yes.
But you're right. She had no option but to keep going. That was it. And you had said in the beginning, one of your really touching things that you said about her was it was going to be just as hard to go forward as it would have been to go back.
Yes.
And you had said that in our first meeting, like there was no other choice but to go forward because it was going to be just as painful to reverse. So I think it's unique that you made full circle with that.
Yeah.
How about you, Jessica?
I was glad that she finished. I, as far um, as far as her sleeping with that guy, I kind of agree. Like she had to do it one more time to not be able to do it anymore. She had to do it one more time to make sure she really didn't need to do it anymore. I was really kind of disappointed when she did that. I was like, oh, but I see where it was like part of the healing process. I was just like, oh, I was really pulling for her not to. Um, I think it was really telling too, like that she was with people a lot more towards that end portion. I need closure. I need to know like how badly injured her feet were. Like this whole time, I'm like, this sort of pain, like I've lost toenails, etc. But it sounds like she's doing permanent damage. Like I need to know, like, have you been able to walk comfortably since? Is it okay? Like, but I feel like you could really see like the growth and the amount of healing that she did, that she was able to walk with people, that she was able to put sleeping around behind her as part of her coping process. She didn't have to do that anymore. And I feel like she ended the whole thing feeling like a lot more independent, even though I think she felt really independent to begin with. I think she didn't really know the meaning of that until she did this.
I think you're exactly right. I think she felt that she was independent because she isolated herself. But that's a totally different type of independence. If you're doing it to push people away because you don't want to be vulnerable, it's a totally different independence of just choosing to do things on your own because you like to do things on your own versus forcing yourself to because you're afraid to be close to people. So I agree. I think she made that transition along the way. She has a podcast called Dear Sugar. It's available on Spotify and Apple, iTunes, I think it is. And you hear about her recovery of her feet in this. So they call her Sugar because she helps people. They write into her and she gives them advice. That's what this podcast is about. If you don't want to check that out, you can look on YouTube. She has an interview back about 10 years ago with Oprah. And Oprah asked specifically, did you have to have feet surgery? Like, what happened? And she still, the only thing I pulled away from it is she still doesn't have the right toenail. The toenails have not returned to the way they were before, which is not surprising. Yeah. How about you, Stephanie? What did you think about her intimacy with the guy? Did you think it was a test for her? Like I'm gathering for Jameson and Jessica, it's like she wanted to see how she felt when she did it. Was it going to be the same as it used to be? And then about her surrounding herself with her other people.
Yeah, so I think she did have to go through that process, like everybody else said. She had to realize that she doesn't need guys' attention in that way, that she can actually have some self-worth for herself and not need attention from guys like that. And I'm actually proud of her, the fact that she did finish, even though she did take a detour. But most of the people, it said in the book, they had a detour too, except for those, what was it, those three guys. They just kept going along. I forget the nickname of them, but and then I was proud of her actually holding out longer to have sex with that guy, but finally she gave in. But I think that was part of her healing process. And then what was the other question?
Basically, just I think she calls them the three bears.
Yeah.
The guys that she becomes friends with, but one of them she gets she gets a crush on, and they talk
Yeah.
about meeting in Portland, which I thought was interesting. she allowed herself to have a little bit of feeling, but didn't act on it, because she could have.
Yeah.
But yeah, did you think, and you kind of said you felt like she had grown, like she
Yeah.
had
Oh,
made
yeah.
that transition that she was looking to make, which is really cool. That's something really hard to transition over from, that kind of like needing that validation and attention from people and then not needing it anymore. That's a big thing. So at least something good came from her little adventure. How about you, Victoria? We haven't really gotten to hear a whole lot about like your thoughts on Cheryl. So do you feel like in the beginning for to now, do you feel like she's changed, or do you feel like she kind of stayed the same?
I do feel like she grew quite a bit throughout this. I really thought it was kind of interesting how she like had these, it was like trauma response is like a great like word for like a phrase for it, because it was like very much like I'm gonna pull these people in, you know what I mean? And then like, nope, I'm gonna push everyone away. And I need to do this myself. And you know what I mean? No matter how much trail magic I'm getting and like awesome people I'm meeting or interesting experiences I'm having, it's like this like she still seems to have a problem striking a balance with like the just that balance of like, having people around her and then like pushing them away. What I thought was interesting was like how the book ended. I love that she finished also. The like Sierra's detour, I feel like was necessary, like just with what they were hearing. And like she was even like seeing snow in places that like she wasn't expecting to see snow, you know what I mean? Like that would be pretty scary for me, I think. Um, but yeah, just like the way that the book ended, I would have loved to have seen like maybe a little bit more of her transition into like every regular everyday life after that, because it's like she got to the bridge, she like touched the end, and it's like then I walk into the town and it's like I like it's almost like how do you restart life after something like this? And I would have loved a whole like maybe second book on like the 3 months after her 3 months or 3 or 4 months on the PCT, because I just really feel like there's so much like wildness that she tapped into in her own soul that like how did that come out in her like relationships? How did that come out in her everyday life? Yeah, just because I think that um she was a different person by the end. I do think that she held out for as long as she could, and you know what I mean, she was resorting to like old coping mechanisms to see if they like hit the same way or like, you know what I mean, like felt the same. And they didn't. And yeah, so it definitely has me like interested to see like how if she talks about more about her like I don't know, her life after the trail and how she acclimated, because it felt very much like okay, like there was a lot of relationship building along the way, and like how did that all shake out, I guess.
So the way that I found her is my favorite author is Elizabeth Gilbert. She wrote Eat, Pray, Love, and she also wrote another book called Tiny Magical Things, about how you get to write. It's like a way to grow yourself as a writer. Jameson is, I love to write poetry. I love to, working on a book. I'm working on a book my whole life. So like, anyway, I came to know her through Elizabeth Gilbert, and that's how I found the podcast. But I still had not read Wild, only because I was afraid. I'm so glad I got to do it in book club. I was afraid it would be triggering because of my mom. But she does have another book. It's called Tiny Beautiful Things. There's a show on Hulu about it now. And she does have a podcast and tons of interviews where she talks about how she reacclimated and the challenges that came with that. I think she thought she would just go into being a writer during the day, a waitress at night, and just get a small place and be okay. But she talks a lot about like the noise of the world and how loud everything was for her and how overstimulated. You really hear about that story. And I was curious about that myself. So there are lots of resources for it. It's really cool.
Awesome. Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah. Okay. The next thing is, do you think, I know she grew as a person, we all agree on that, but she had such an insurmountable amount of grief. Do you think she was able to kind of like pack it up and like resolve the grief from not only did she lose her mom, but when she lost her mom, she lost the connection to her stepdad. He remarried with new kids, so she lost him. Her sister is always, not involved. And then her brother Leaf, she didn't have much contact with, and she destroyed her marriage. That's like four major losses. Do you think she was able to come to some type of like resolution with the loss and be able to start over brand new? Or do you think that still ate away at her and she struggled with escaping that pain? And we'll start with Victoria and go back around.
For me, I think I saw her like leave a lot on the trail. You know what I mean? It started with like the seeing the fox and screaming for mom, like way back in the beginning, up until, you know what I mean? I feel like she did a lot of processing without maybe realizing that she was processing, and like thinking about like even like the EMDR that's inherent in like the bilateral movement of walking, right? It has to like, even if you're thinking about that kind of stuff, like you're processing it in a way that like is becoming safer to your body to like live inside. So yeah, I think, you know, I'm gonna have to definitely read on some of the resources that you like let me know about her life to see if I'm right for sure. But I think that personally, I saw her leave like a lot on the trail, I think. And I think that while grief is, one of those things that sits with us forever, and like it comes in ebbs and it's like a never-ending ocean. I think that she was able to like maybe get to a point where like her heart chakra wasn't so inflamed and like just bleeding everywhere. So that's my opinion.
I agree a little bit with I really do. I thought I love books, and I get the feeling that she loves books too, like we all do, Like they're like these are like little mini treasures to me, they're my preciouses. I kind of felt like there was some type of symbolism, and I'm curious, going to Stephanie, if you think so too. She burned the books, and I felt like part of that was like a release. She even did in this part of it a ritual on her mom's birthday, and like she had finished the book and she burnt the book like as a homage to her mom. She spoke her mom's name out loud. Um, I feel like with every book that she burned, there was in a little lighter load. She released
That's like
it.
lightening her load, like
Yeah,
symbolically and in a literal sense was very interesting. Yeah.
yeah, and I love your insight with it. She was doing EMDR and didn't even know it with that, the noise and the way that your body moves, and so cool. Stephanie, what are your things? Do you think that if all of that had happened to you, and in her shoes, do you think you could leave it there, or do you think it would stay with you?
So I think like what Victoria said, I think she did leave a lot of it behind. And I think I feel my opinion is I think she still had stuff to work through even after she got off the trail, because grief doesn't leave you, like you were saying, it just keeps on and it keeps coming back when you least expect it to. At least that's what I've experienced so far with my grief. And I want to know what happened with Paul, honestly. I want to know how that shaped out, because it seemed like she was still in love with him to some extent. I mean, as we got farther on in the book and the way that she was feeling. And then I forget what the other question was. I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry, you're fine. It's a lot to take in, and you've been through something similar, so I can see how it would be a little bit like disorienting to answer the question. I was just wanting to know, since you have lost your mom, and it is, and it's such a difficult, challenging thing. If that had happened to you in the way that it did to her, do you think you could leave it there, or do you think you would carry it with you? And you kind of answered that by like grief kind of flares, it waxes and wanes, and comes back. But do you think she could put the majority of it there on that trail, or maybe relate the grief to something happy, like the trail and what she accomplished?
Yeah, I mean, I think she could relate and keep things happier, more optimistic. The thing that strikes me is she kept saying how her mom was optimistic when she was dying, And that really made her upset. And, when she used the language, fuck you, mom, and all of that stuff. I mean, you're mad that they left you, but it wasn't their fault, because I still feel the same way with my mom. I'm not mad I'm mad because she had to leave, but there's nothing that could be done to stop it. So I understand that's just part of the anger of it. She was trying to work through that.
I agree. I agree. How about you, Jessica? Did you feel like she got closure from all of the loss, or do you feel like it was just like a whole new stage, like a new beginning of dealing with it?
So I'm a huge proponent of the school of thought that you don't ever actually get through grief, but your relationship to grief changes. And I feel like her time on the trail got her to a point where she could shift to that new relationship with grief, to where it wasn't this huge heavy weight on her, but something that she was a little bit more manageable, a little bit smaller. Um, I I feel like regardless of the situation of the loss, you do tend to see things just kind of keep coming up in random places, and they hit different depending on where you're at in your relationship with grief. There was a time where it was just gut wrenching to see like Facebook memories pop up with my brother in them. And now I'm like, that's pretty cool. Thanks, Facebook. I like seeing my brother. That's awesome. Not so much with my dad. I've got it set where like dad is like a thing, like it filters out, because I'm not there yet and I'm still mad. So, and that's, I think we all have our own way of processing, and she processed it in such a physical way that I feel like she kind of made it through to that new relationship maybe a little bit more quickly than other people might.
Um, just so you know, you made me feel a little validated because I haven't wrapped mine up. I've lost a lot of people, so it comes and goes. And I felt like what she did was so monumental. Um, I think the fact that she went when she went is really, really important to how she was able to overcome it. When I lost other people, I kind of buried it to keep going because life keeps moving no matter who dies, right? When I lost Penny Lane, my dog, I know it's a dog, but I had her for 17 years and she was my daughter, right? And so losing her was a tremendous loss. It was even harder for me to lose her than it was my mom, my cousin, my grandparents, because she was with me 24/7. I immediately went to EMDR for her because I thought I'm not gonna be able to survive without this dog. It is the easiest one for me to deal with now. And I think it's because I immediately dealt with it versus I still can't unpack the other ones because I have them buried so deep, you know? So it could be her timing of all. It's a really, really good point. How about you, Jameson? Do you think you could leave it there on the trail? I know you physically use your body to work out and you leave a lot there. Um, does that help? Is that something where you can unpack emotions physically?
I think that it helps me get to a place where I can process them. I My first reaction to nearly everything is to be angry. Um, when what I'm really am is probably sad or hurt or any number of other things. And so I think that I kind of felt the same way about her. I don't feel like there was less grief. I don't feel like she left it there, but I feel like she found who she was to be able to deal with or move forward with the grief that she had. Um, she doesn't have to turn to sex. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but you don't have to use it as a band-aid or medicine or whatever. She doesn't have to use drugs anymore. So like she found who she was, which is exactly what she set out to do. She found the person inside of her that could deal with that grief. And maybe I just see it that way because that's, I mean, that's kind of I find who I am when I'm like, well, here's this really hard thing. Let's see if we can do this. And sometimes I don't know, like you're training or you're working out and it is so hard that you can't focus on anything else. But sometimes everything you pick up or every step you run, it's in your head and by the time you're done, you realize I'm not really angry, I'm hurt or I'm sad or I feel, whatever emotion that is not anger.
I saw Jessica say me too. Me too. You guys all know I'm an angry little bear. And I saw a quote on, I think it was Facebook or Instagram that said, I sat with my grief long enough to know it wasn't anger anymore. It was sadness over the loss of what, you go through. But I feel like anger is so much easier to deal with and express and, sadness is like quicksand almost, where anger, you can do something with it, you can rage dance or exercise or rage clean or scream. But with sadness, it's like almost like you drown, and I think that's the difference in it. But I also respond with, I am big mad. I mean, instantly. So thank you for sitting with me in that. Because everyone's like, you're Irish and ginger, and that's the reason why you're mad.
Well, I feel like anger is easier because anger is almost always directed at someone else. If you feel hurt or abandoned or any number of other things, that's usually about you. And so instead of sorting through why I feel hurt or abandoned or whatever, it is easier for me to be angry at any number of external things
Yeah.
because
Doesn't
I
even have to
don't
be a
have to
person.
unpack why I am feeling that way, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so we're gonna start back with you, Jameson. I remembered not to get Gwen was like, why don't you just write their names down in alphabetical order? I'm like, I don't know what happens when I get so into the discussion that I forget which order I'm in. But I was curious. I've gotten a lot of personal feedback from everyone how difficult this book was to get through. And how some people just had to like put it down and walk away from it because it was so incredibly just so draining. If you could rate this book on a scale of 5 stars, like on Goodreads or whatnot, what would you rate it? One being the worst, 5 being the best, and why?
I mean, probably a 4, just because I feel like there are very few that are 5. But it's the English major in me. But it was hard. I actually finished it about an hour ago. Um, and it was hard on different levels. Like it was hard because it reminds you of dealing with grief. And like my dad's been gone nearly 7 years, but it's just, I mean, it's not really, you just learn to deal with it differently. I still miss him, but you just figure out how to handle that. Um, but I think I said it last week too. Like I've always felt like there's a thing I'm supposed to do. Um, and my friend jokes with me. She's like, are you gonna have your every 4 years mental breakdown when the Olympics happens? This I'm like, no, I don't think I am. Like, I don't think that it's that, like, because I'm too old now, right? Like I'm not. But I don't know, like having been an athlete and having had things that I wanted to accomplish, like to read about her doing this thing, I started thinking in my mind, like, okay, how much money do I need to hike the Appalachian Trail? Like, how much money do I really need to do this? And the answer is about $5,000 and about 5 months or 6 of your life that I don't have. So I don't know. I think it just like it's on the level of grief and on the level of how we deal with our emotions and anything. And it's like, I just was going to read a story and now here I am crying at 6 o'clock on a Wednesday. So
I probably went through every emotion. I even told Stephanie my first week I threw the book. I was so mad. And of course my first reaction is anger, and I cried with it and had to put it down, and I journaled, and I've gone through every array of emotion with it too. So I empathize with everyone. And you had made a comment about the book that you had chosen for our next read, and how you had you were torn because you wanted to choose Stephen King, and you were afraid everybody wouldn't like that kind of genre. And I think the point of book club is to get us to branch out into things that we wouldn't normally read, so that we can expand what we like, what we don't like, and how we feel. And biographies are truly my favorite. And I'm just like you. I'm like, she told herself she wasn't afraid. And so my next journey is the gastric bypass. And I keep telling myself, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. I can do this. But inside is a little, but you like do trying to figure out how much money would it cost to do it and things. You start collecting your debts. It's very inspiring. So I totally relate. How about you, Jessica? What would you rate it with its challenges and its good point?
So I would say for like a lot of the same reasons, probably a 4. You're gonna have to really work for that 5. But also it was less hard as it went on in some ways and more difficult in other ways. And I think part of my difficulty with it was not just digging into the grief, but seeing her relating to her mom. And I feel like I'm at the point as a mom where I'm starting to really be concerned about how my kids view me, what our relationship looks like. My kids are almost adults, and we've got our struggles. We've had a rough few years. It was also hard too because I used to be a very, very, very physically fit person. I won the Marine Fitness Award in high school. My body has always kind of been my nemesis though. And as we were reading Wild, I was attending pulmonary rehab orientation, which will be starting July 5th. And I'm scared to death about that because I'll tell you, at orientation, thought I was going to die. And they were like, you have to sign this paper that says you understand that heart attack is a side effect of pulmonary rehab sometimes, but you're 44. It's cool. You're probably fine. Like, but you need pulmonary rehab. So I'm like, God, this is so inspiring, but it's also something I know physically I will never, ever, ever be able to do. Even if I had all the time and money in the world, my body is never going to let me do that. I mean, when we went to Colorado, I suffered horribly at the higher elevations. My body was like, no, altitude sickness is going to happen. So I'm awestruck that with as little preparation that she did as well as she did, and she finished it, because it is absolutely something I'm not capable of. So it was hard on a lot of levels.
I actually brought that up in my therapy appointment. I go to trauma therapy weekly. I was talking about how an Oliver I was, and how my body has been a nemesis to me as a cage. It felt like a cage, but it was a self-made cage. I built this cage around me to protect myself, but it's also done me a lot of harm too. And I thought, there's just no way I'm going to be 46. I've wasted my chance to climb that mountain. And my therapist had a really good insight on it and said, but we all pick our mountain. It can be our own trail. It doesn't have to be hers. It's our thing that's hard for us. It's our thing that we can do. And maybe this rehab is yours, you know? it sounds like it's gonna be challenging and push you. So maybe you'll find something in that push, you know? I wish you all the luck. I really do. How about you, Stephanie? What would you give it? A 1 to 5 and as hard as it was?
So I also was thinking of 4. Um, and you know, the parts of it that are difficult, I feel like it was getting easier as you go on, because most of the time I'm like, why are you doing this to yourself? Why are you making these stupid mistakes? Why are you but that's how you learn. And then I'm just like, I'm also in awe how she did it, because she didn't know how much money to put. She was, spending $20 here and there, waiting for her next box. And what she put her body through, I can't do that either with my conditions, because I have rheumatoid arthritis, and right now my mountain is trying to battle that. And this book is really inspiring, and I wish I could get to the place where I could actually do something like this, but maybe I'll scale it back to something smaller. Maybe one day I'll actually be able to run again, because I also have a fake hip too. And you know, I mean, you just have to do the best you can. And I'm hoping that I can really make my way through this grief, because last book, after book club, my husband was like, I don't think you're ready to move on from the grief right now. He's like, I really don't think you are. And I really want to be able to move through it, but there's something stopping me and I don't know why. And that's also my mountain too, because I don't know if you knew this or not, but I lost my grandma a few days after my birthday that same year. And then my mom went a few months later, and I have no grandparents. I have no siblings, so it's just my dad and I and Robert's family basically. So that's that's been a mountain. It's going to continue to be a mountain.
I feel like if you can get yourself to a point emotionally and physically where you're just okay and not in a huge flare, that is a huge, huge deal. RA alone is such a hard thing to battle. Um, I can tell you from experience, you're probably dealing what they call with compound grief. So I lost my mom first, and 6 months later, my grandpa, and then my cousin overdosed, or they say his heart exploded from doing medication. And then immediately after that, my grandma, then my partner of 11 years left me for a 17-year-old. And then she met on Grand Theft Auto nonetheless. And then my dog died. That's it, the one I had for 17 years. This all happened within the span of 3 to 4 years. So there was absolutely no time to grieve anyone, because I was in the midst of dealing with the next one going. So I never had any space or time for it. So when it was all over, I was just like, where the heck do I start? I had my monster pack, you know? And what my therapist did with me with EMDR is, instead of a monster pack, you guys know I'm a bookworm. So in our EMDR, we made a library catalog. And you know how it has a million little drawers, and how you like used to go through the card catalog? That's where we put my grief. So we just pull out drawer by drawer, card by card, little bit by little bit, and unpack each one. But it sounds like yours is compounded too. And maybe you just need to have little chips, you know? The fact that you even want to try is a huge deal. And I'm so proud of you. I'm so glad to know you. How about you, Victoria? What would you rate it?
I would say I am towing the club line with a 4, because a 5 is reserved for very few for me. But this, like I said, was kind of interesting because I read this like a few months before my mom had passed, the year that she passed. Right after we had reconciled some of our deepest differences. So I definitely had my own share of hard times. Like, I think there was almost a week where like I didn't touch it because I was like, okay, this feels like a lot right now. But yeah, I think that it, you know, it gets me thinking about some of the transformative experiences that I've had in my own life. I would love to hike the PCT or the AT first off. I don't know if I could do it in summer now that I know the heat is literally trying to kill me. Um, but now that, you know, and that's a whole new kind of like limitation that I have to accept, right? Is like not being able to like get out as much in the heat as I like thought I would, because it just came on like my attack came on so quickly. It was just like I'm good, I think I'm cool, and all of a sudden, no, I'm not. I'm wheezing both in and out. So it was a whole thing. But yeah, so it has me thinking though about like other transformative experiences that I haven't done yet, but I'd like to do. Yoga teacher training was one of them. I would really love to get like a Reiki certification or like be trained by a Reiki master. So I think that might be like maybe my next journey, but yeah, it had me thinking like the power of a really good transformative experience. It's like just insurmountable enough to be like, I don't know how I'm gonna pass it off. Cause I feel like I had that feeling at the beginning of 200-hour yoga teacher training. Like me, like not active. How am I gonna do 200 hours of yoga? And then how am I gonna like teach that to other people? How am I gonna do this? But the how am I gonna do this really got like quickly silenced by just like putting one foot in front of the other and like just continuing to show up. And I think in all of our little ways, like whatever our mountains are, like that's the key, right? It's like we're just putting our foot in front of the other, we're continuing to show up, we're continuing to breathe, we're continuing to like try to move forward. But yeah, it had me inspired to like maybe seek out my next transformative experience for sure.
I think that's so funny because she's not here right now, but Shannon had posted in our group saying that she thought when she was reading it, like, yeah, I can do this. I'm gonna go out and get my pack and go hiking. And then she thought, I don't even like staying at a cheap motel. How am I gonna make it out in the wilderness? You know, but it does, it pumps you up like that. I've known you for a while now, and it's going to let you know I've seen so much growth in you. You're so informed on how to heal your trauma. And I see you implementing a lot of the things. I don't know if you got it from The Body Keeps the Score, the book, or if you found your way on your own, but the way that you deal with your own trauma, your painting, the plants, your yoga certification, like the loss of our job, all of that. I saw you just like take all that and bloom with it. And it's super admirable. So I think you are conquering your mountain. You're in it, so you don't see it, you know?
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Now is the time if you want to talk about your show and tell item, your little totem, that you carry with you or have with you, anything, whether it's a tattoo, a book, jewelry, a story, even anything you want to share. And we'll start back with you, Victoria, if you have anything like that, like she had her boot and her feather and her pack and her tattoo with Paul, that sort of thing.
Mine is, I didn't bring it with me, but it is a pair of boots. So when my mom passed away, we were kind of cleaning out her closet. My mom was like a cigarette mom. So she was like size 0, like, you know what I mean? Like there was no way I was gonna get any of her clothes, like hand me down, whatever. My sister got her a jean jacket. That was a cool find. But I was like, okay, cool. I would love to have like a piece of her somehow and like carry her with me. And I found these like boots that were like very like I had never seen her in them, but they were like really trendy for the time. They're like these like brown boots with like a red zipper up the side, and they're just like very straightforward. But like these boots I've like worn on like really important days. Like I wore them when I had my like engagement photo shoot or my like elopement photo shoot with my husband. Like I wear them in like special moments because it's just like they're my kind of way to like walk in her shoes a little bit, and like my way to like just leave like our footprints together, like literally. And so for me it's like if I have like something big, I wore the boots as part of yoga too at one point. Like when we had like a photo shoot, I was like, okay, I'm gonna wear the boots. So yeah, these boots that I like found in the back of my mom's closet discarded that were probably from like Payless. I really love them. And they like, yeah, they're my little like kind of they're my little good luck charm. Other than that, I always carry a piece of black, like faceted obsidian with me. It's my like negative vibe collector, and I just like they will literally like break or snap, and I'll just like get a new one, and it's just yeah. So I didn't bring them today because I was like, oh, I was like scrambling before this because your girl fell asleep. But that would be mine. My boots and my obsidian. I like usually have one of the other with me at all times.
I love that. Thank you so
Mhm.
much for sharing that. That is awesome. And so relatable. Um, yeah, Stephanie, do you want to talk about yours?
So I was telling Billy today, I can't find my little charm that I usually have in my purse with me. So my grandma, do you guys remember Avon, the catalog and all that? So my grandma, when I was really young, she got me this little purple and white teddy bear. It has a little purple heart on its left side, and it has these very pretty purple iridescent wings. And it used to say, "I'm your guardian angel." And I can't seem to find that, but it was special to me, and I kept it, since I was really young. And it reminds me that the people that have passed on that are important to me, that they're with me all the time. So that's my show and tell. I just don't have it with me.
That is okay. I told you, sometimes the universe, energy, God, whatever you want to call it, these things sometimes are removed because they're so hard to have that reminder, and you're getting ready to go through a time when all this happened, and it might just be out of the way right now, you know?
It's
I
literally
think they
weird how
read
that stuff happens. Like,
me too.
I'm sorry to interject,
No,
but
please.
when my mom passed, I grabbed a lock of her hair because I like literally, I was like, we were cremating her. It was the only tangible thing I had other than her stuff that was like, this was connected to this woman that like birthed me. It's a thing. There have been times where no matter like I put the hair in the same place, it's in an envelope, it's from like it's very official looking because it's from the medical examiner, and like I have it in the same place every time, but there will be times where I go to find it and it's like not there. And like it's very strange. And there will be other times I go and it's like the thing on top of the drawer, like there for me to discover. And I find that it's kind of weird. Like I think my mom like plays games with me like that, but because that's very her. But I definitely I
Yeah,
just want to say, like, yeah,
it's a
something
thing.
like little
It's a
tangible.
real thing. I've looked
Sometimes,
into
like,
it.
yeah, sometimes I won't find like the house elves will like take it or spirit it away somewhere. And then other times I'll find it and it'll be like it's always whenever I see that lock of hair or the envelope with the lock of hair, it's always the right time. And I'm always like, I needed to see that today. So I'm hoping that that's the same case for you. And also very cool about Avon because I worked at Avon as security in like 2010 to 2012 in Zanesville. They have a huge like distribution center, just so you know, they're still around.
Yeah, very cool. Very, very cool. It is a thing. It's a phenomenon. One of the things that I wanted to talk about is this tiger's eye necklace that my mom gave me. She had it her whole life, like since the 70s. And she wore it. And because she felt like it made her stronger, and she didn't really do a lot of crystal studying, but it actually is bring strength. And I told Stephanie when she told me she lost it, I said, when my ex left, I couldn't find it. And I thought for sure she took it out of spite. Me, my first gut reaction is just to be mad. It had to be her. And so years went by. And then one day I wanted to organize my drawer more. They pulled out all the drawers, and there it was in the back, just sitting there all by itself. Like 2 years later, when I
Wow.
was more healed and ready to see it. And it was just like,
Yeah.
wow, something was protecting me from being triggered by it, sort of. How about you, Jessica? Do you have anything you'd like to show us or talk about?
Yeah. So my tattoo, um, it's backwards, so it's hard to read, and I'm not great with the webcam, hold still webcam. But anyway, um, I got my tattoo in the middle of processing grief for my brother, but um, also in processing my own grief for myself. I was in a really abusive marriage. I had got really wrapped up in being the good daughter, the good girl, doing the right thing. But I'd pretty well lost myself. And then I heard about this campaign called To Write Love on Her Arms, which is a suicide and self-harm prevention campaign. And I participated for a couple of years by like sharpieing myself when I worked as a barista. And I thought, you're not committed enough to this. Be permanent. And so it's my handwriting that was then transferred onto my arm. And it's a reminder, because I am a survivor of suicide myself, both my own attempt, my brother's attempt, a fiance's. I'm also a former self-harmer who is currently parenting a child dealing with self-harm. And I feel like I've really leaned on this reminder to deal with my daughter with love, and to try and to get her the help that she needs. So.
Well, thank you so much for your vulnerability. So many things I want to say. I just want to make sure that I get it all out to you. I smiled when you talked about To Write Love on Our Arms. I volunteer for them. And I buy like all their campaigns. They have a beautiful one for Pride that says, being out is suicide prevention, acceptance is suicide prevention. I lost my very first boyfriend to suicide when I was 14. It was my first car date. It was the first person I'd lost. I've lost multiple boyfriends and before, but anyway, that's a long story short. Anyway, about you, back to you. About your parenting, I just want to tell you, I'm not, not a mom. But I do know a lot of my friends struggle with it. And one of my favorite quotes to tell them is from Maya Angelou. And it says, "You do the best you can until you know that you can do better." So I feel like when it comes to parenting, you're doing everything you possibly can to make it right for them. You wouldn't do it any other way. And I saw you with one of your children, and it was wonderful. So I commend you for that. I really do. And I love your tattoo. I wrote it on my arm every year when they post it on Facebook, and then I post it on Instagram. So it's so cool. Thank you. How about you, Jameson? Do you have anything?
I tend to keep things that, like, when I've lost people that they have given me or that were important to them. Like I have a nightlight that my grandma got me when I was a kid. Like I still have it. Um, when I started driving, my dad gave me a knife that has an end on it that you can break a window with. Because we lived on the Ohio River. I had a friend who actually went into the river. It was snowy, it was icy. Her truck went into the river. She's fine, she got out. But like it was always a thing that scared him. And it kind of reminds me of like, I don't know, it reminds me of like I forgave my dad for a lot of things because he did what he had to do to survive. And that's kind of like it feels like that to me. Like he gave me this so that I would be okay. Because he was not the best at saying I love you, but he did things like that, like, oh, I got you this thing, or I filled your car up with gas. So I tend to keep things like that people have given me if I've lost that person. But my tattoos are just a roadmap of everything. I got one on my arm because when I was a cutter, that is where I would cut on my arms. And it's a compass, and it says our scars remind us where we've been, and they don't have to dictate where we're going. And when I got that, that was at the point that I just decided that I was done. I wasn't doing that anymore. I was letting other people control where I was going, and I was the one that should be in control of it. So I was done. And I haven't done it since. So I think, and I've any number of tattoos, but they all mean very, very specific things to me. So I think it's easier for me to collect things that way.
That is so beautiful. Almost makes me cry as somebody who has harmed themselves in multiple ways my whole life. And finally getting to the point where I don't want to anymore. Hearing you do that, that's remarkable. Thank you for sharing. 'Cause it's really inspiring. Um, wow. So I get goosebumps because you never fail to reach parts of me that I didn't even know were buried under there, feeling something. So thank you for that. I brought jewelry, of course, my mom's tiger's eye and my grandma's bracelet. She raised me as Catholic. She put me in Catholic school. And it says, her favorite Bible quote, and it says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I don't wear it much. I'm not Catholic anymore. I'm ominous. I pull from every faith, but when I do see it and I feel her saying it's going to be okay. And then my engagement ring from Gwen, because after my 11-year relationship ended, I thought I would never, ever allow anyone to get close to me again, ever. I made up my mind that was in my avenue. I was look at Victoria. She was like, I know. And
Look at how
somehow,
that worked out for you.
yeah, somehow she wiggled her way under my Ice Queen exterior and found a way to get in and love me. And it reminds me that more is more when it comes to love. Her love healed me. And I'm forever grateful. And then my best friend, Angie, got me this butterfly bracelet to remind me that no matter how much trauma I've had, to always go back into my cocoon and heal and come back as a butterfly. So it's for whatever reason, trauma follows me. I think I might be at the stage where it's finally closing. And as far as the book goes, I would give it a 4 too, only because I feel like it should have been longer. I would have liked one more chapter of her living in Portland and functioning. I would have felt more of a conclusion there to that. So that was my only reason. So now we got some announcements for you. So we need to do our little award. So Jameson is our rookie award, our new member. And they also picked an incredible book for us going forward. So it will be Stephanie, Jessica, and Jameson will all go on a piece of paper and the little thing here. And then I will draw them out and we'll see who won. And then immediately after, I will have you guys go to a Facebook poll and we're going to vote on the MVP. So that's the person that you felt like made the most impactful discussion topics, who made things just more insightful, made you enjoy the book more. You don't want to vote for Aaron or myself, but anyone else. It doesn't matter if they attended one meeting or all of them. And then our final one is this attendance award. That's true, right? Rookie, MVP, and attendance. Let me get a pen. 1 second, guys. I'm so sorry if I am giving you a giant. I did. I gave you a big cleavage shot. Oh, that's great. Good thing we are 18 and over.
Happy Pride.
Okay, let's see who wins this. And then whoever wins these things, if you can Facebook me your address or a meeting place that you would like to get your goodies. And then there we go. Okay, so we've got Jessica, Stephanie, and Jameson. And the cool thing is, I'm working on our brand. And so these names will go into, if you come to every meeting for this next book and the one after that, you'll get all of our branded Cozy Corner stuff, all kinds of things. Koozies, water bottle stuff, bag, a t-shirt, all that sort of thing. So for best attendance. Jameson. So you get both. You'll get the book, and then you'll also get some book goodies. So if you have got the book already, you'll get an Amazon gift card. Have you gotten the book? Good, good, yay. Okay, perfect. And then you guys will vote on MVP, and help me remember, guys. Rookie, we're good. Okay. The other announcements are I'm going to be making a weekly post on, we have more members coming this time. I've been trying to find more diverse people so that we have a little bit better discussion, just a few. If you want to invite anybody, please do. If you don't, that's okay too. But I'm going to make a weekly post on Saturdays to see if you guys have any questions that you want brought up on the discussion, the next meeting, so that, you know, I come up with these. I always look up like book club questions for each book. I thought hearing some of your guys' questions would be cool. Our new book is My Heart is a Chainsaw, and it is by Stephen Graham Jones. And so we will be starting this, and we will have our next meeting on June 30th, and the new people will be there for that. Let's see if there's anything else. One more note. Oh, I'm also going to post a midweek this Wednesday. I'm going to make a post about, is there anything that you would like to see changed? So I love constructive criticism. In fact, Erin, my co-admin, she was my quality person. So she would be the person that told me what I did wrong on my calls at my old job. So I love any kind of creative criticism that you have. Any suggestions would make things better. Does anybody have any questions or thoughts, concerns, anything we didn't go over?
Just
No,
wanted to
we're
say
good.
congrats, Jameson.
That's wonderful. Well, I am so glad you guys came and that we were able to finish this book. And I think everyone else is going to have a huge relief and go on to something that's not as emotional. Although I have a feeling she's a twisted girl, this main character. So I'm sure we'll all find something to relate to. I'm excited regardless. So, Jameson, if you will message me and let me know where I can drop the things to you, can meet you anywhere or come over and drop them on your porch, and then vote. I'll put up the poll now, and we'll see who our MVP is. That person, Erin, will be mailing the book to you. She'll order it on Amazon tonight. You'll have it in a couple of days. Okay?
Awesome.
All right. Happy reading. Stay in touch. I'll see you guys next week. I love you
you
all.
next week.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.